Here's my wall for scale with an A4 book. In my cupboard, I found the perfect plank. It was mostly cork, but had a layer of plastic over it, meaning it was perfect for waterproofing. Here are the cutting lines that I drew along it. I used a smaller piece to test different knives and saws. I had a wallboard saw, which wasn't ideal for cutting smooth lines, but it got the job done. So I also tried using an X-Acto blade for it was cork underneath the plastic, but it snapped. With practice, the lines that I cut became relatively straight. It all started to, work quite nicely. But it seemed if I wasn't as focused, it will slowly veer off course and, it won't be neat. The wallboard saw seemed rather promising, so I decided to cut my first large piece. It went actually rather well. The line was straight enough. Though it worked, it was frankly very uncomfortable. The wallboard saw wasn't designed to be cut at such an angle. There was no comfortable way to hold it. It was hard to cut in a straight line without it veering off course, so I had to use a cutting mat, and it took absolutely forever. Maybe 40 minutes to just cut that one piece, and I had to repeat that 7 more times. Unfortunately, it wasn't even, so I decided to sand it down with a file, and it's worked out well enough. More cutting of wood happened, and here's me cutting the final piece. The final one. After many hours of, grudgingly cutting wood, this is the final piece. The lines that I cut gradually got better. The more I cut, the more I practiced, the neater it got. So it all worked out. At this point, I was trying to secure the planks of wood together. I at first trying to screw straight through the large plank into the smaller one, but it didn't work. The cork split right in two. I attempted to use an adjustable wrench to fix this, but it did not work. Once I took off the wrench, the wood split right in two again. Hence, I needed to secure the pieces of wood together while screwing into them perpendicular to the surface, so it won't split down the middle. So while rummaging through my toolbox, I found these pieces, and they seemed to work rather well. This frame had to be completely waterproof, so I used silicone to cover the inside and outside of every edge, and, it was completely sealed. I attached the outer planks by screwing in these, do not know what they're called, I'll call them right angle bars, from the outside. It seemed a bit ugly at first, but it was my only solution, for I didn't have any small ones. In the end, I liked how it looked. It added a interesting touch to the project, and it made it look much more industrial. I also added more silicone around the edges to make sure everything was perfectly sealed. As you can see here, there are no gaps whatsoever. And again, for good measure, here's an A4 book just for scale. To store the plants, I used pouches, and they came in a large 1 meter by 1 meter set, but I trimmed it down so that it would fit perfectly into the frame. I made a few mistakes. I accidentally cut some of the stitching, but I was careful to glue it back in. Here's the final cutout, and I decided to use screws to secure the pouch into the frame. Now I can finally start adding plants. The plant on the left is called the Swiss cheese plant, and the one on the right is apparently called the sword braid. So now I moved the plant from the pot to the pouch. And apparently, changing of soil and the cutting of some roots helps stimulate growth of the plant. Then I had to hang it onto the wall, so I used these little pieces, screwed them on, it worked wonderfully. Now I had to pad it up with these access pieces from the pouches. I then went and got more plants. Oh no, there's so much space at the bottom. What are we going to do? That's where I had the backup plan of having ferns. A cheap fern that can just take up all the space if necessary. I am very pleased with the results. The project looks wonderful, the frame is very durable, and it is not too hard to water. Due to all the pouches being made out of fabric, draining occurred naturally. Hence, I did not need to add any straws or piping. In addition, all water built up at the bottom will slowly be reabsorbed by the plants throughout the day. This project took far longer than expected, but in the end, it was all worthwhile.